there's a lot of Sanskrit. And then the next time was, this is recorded, other people can hear it. And then the next time was, it's in the temple room. And then today, when I put my name down the list, I did not realize that I was signing up for a very, very auspicious day. I had no idea when I put my name on that dotted line. So all that is to say, please forgive me in advance for any mistakes I would make. Please give me your blessings that I will not speak my own nonsense. But as Adi always teaches us, please make a prayer that I will speak only things that will make Krishna and our dear beloved birthday boy, my grandfathers like to call him, Prabhupada, happy today. And it's so nice. And it's really interesting. He turned up the heat on me. This was like one of the busiest weeks of my life professionally. So it's been 2.5 years since I've not been able to make a single class live. This week, I always listen after, but this is one of those weeks. So it's so nice to be back live and in person. So even though this is not Adi's Jaya Radha Madhava, which is the greatest of all time, it pleases Srila Prabhupada to hear us sing it. So please tolerate me singing it. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavara Girvara Dari, Gopi Janavara Girivara Dari, Gopi Janavara Girivara Dari, Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from, and I forgot to pull up the things because I was so happy to see all of you. Reading from, hold on. And I need to get off where it's just my face on the screen because that's just disconcerting. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hold it, I had all set up and then I messed it up. Hold on 1 second. There it is. Beautiful. And share, and share, and share. Okay. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter verses 42 and 43. For the interest of time, and quite frankly, to spare you my bad Sanskrit, I will read the English for the first verse and do the Sanskrit for the second. And of course, the translation and purport is by His Most Divine Grace, our founder Acharya, our grandfather, our father, Prabhupada. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I am wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj, this is Yashoda speaking, is my husband, that Krishna is my son, And that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the cowherd men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I also am eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. Following in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, everyone should follow this mentality of renunciation. Whatever wealth, opulence, or whatever else we may possess belongs not to us, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate shelter of everyone and the ultimate owner of everything, as stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. We should not be proud of our possessions. As expressed by Mother Yashoda herein, I am not the owner of possessions, the opulent wife of Nanda Maharaj. The estate, the possessions, the cows and calves, and the subjects, like the gopis and cowmen, are all given to me. One should give up thinking of my possessions, my son, my husband. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. Only because of illusion do we wrongly think I'm existing or everything belongs to me. Thus, Mother Yashoda completely surrendered on the Supreme Lord. For the moment, she was rather disappointed, thinking, my endeavors to protect my son by charity and other auspicious activities are useless. The Supreme Lord has given me many things, but unless he takes charge of everything, there is no assurance of protection. I love that. I'm going to read it again. The Supreme Lord has given me many things, but unless he takes charge of everything, there is no assurance of protection. I must therefore ultimately seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, a father and mother cannot ultimately take care of their children. One's land, home, wealth, and all of one's possessions belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although we wrongly think, I am this, and these things are mine. Verse 43. Itam viti tatalayam gopikayam saishvare Vaishnavin Vaitrenan Mayam Putras Nehamayim Bibu. Again, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Mother Yashoda, by the grace of the Lord, could understand the real truth. But then again, the Supreme Master, by the influence of the eternal potency, Yoga Maya, inspired her to become absorbed in intense maternal affection for her son. Although Mother Yashoda understood the whole philosophy of life, at the next moment, she was overwhelmed by affection for her son by the influence of Yoga Maya. Unless she took care of her son Krishna, she thought, how could he be protected? She could not think otherwise. And thus she forgot all her philosophical speculations. This forgetfulness is described to Srila Vishwanath Charipati Thakur as being inspired by the influence of Yoga Maya. Materialistic persons are captivated by Mahamaya, whereas devotees, by the arrangement of the supreme energy, are captivated by Yoga Maya. Omagan Timaranda Chatjananjanan Shalakaya, Takshurmi Tanmena Tasmai Shri Gurude Namaha, Vanchakopati Rubacha, Kripa Sindhu Ribacha, Petita Nampavanavi Vaishnava, no Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudha Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again, I like to seek your blessings and beg your forgiveness for any mistakes. I seek, of course, the blessings of all the senior devotees, but really you're all senior to me in your devotion and your knowledge. So please bless me. This week, it was interesting. My professional life was very busy this week because I got this really wonderful opportunity to perform at a bereavement camp. It was a camp for children who had lost their caregivers. So it was a very deep week. And on Wednesday, they showed a slideshow where everyone had pictures of the people that they loved that had left their bodies. And all the staff was allowed to participate as well. So my sister had sent me a picture of my father who left his body now about 8-9 years ago. And as one would imagine, if there's my father, my dad was a bit of a character sometimes. And so the picture is him making a muscle like this, and around him were 2 of his sons. He has 3 sons. He has 6 children altogether. 2 of his sons going like this, and my eldest nephew going like this, like making muscles. And when I looked at that picture, it reminded me of what my father's pride and joy was. It wasn't that he owned a house, that he had done this, that, he'd done that. It was his pride in the men and the women with his daughters, but in that picture, the men that his sons and his grandson had become. It was his pride in that they had heard his instruction and went on to live it. And as I was thinking, what does one say to Srila Prabhupada? What does one give to Srila Prabhupada on his birthday? There's a really old movie. It was old when I was little, so I doubt anybody knows it. But it was called To Sir with Love. It was a British movie. And it's about a teacher. And there's a song sung by this person named Lulu. She's just a one person name thing, Lulu. And she's singing to the teacher. And she says, well, what can I give someone who has taken me from crayons to perfume? It isn't easy, but I'll try. What do I say to someone? What do I do for someone who has taken me in my spiritual life from crayons to perfume? It isn't easy, but I'll try. And so what I was thinking is, what can we give Srila Prabhupada? What would please Srila Prabhupada? To please Srila Prabhupada would be, as what my brothers are living, pleasing my father, is to read his books. He gave his life's blood to his books and to his instruction, and to try our best to live them. And so my offering today will be to look at one of the themes that I find very strongly, that, one of the reasons I call Srila Prabhupada grandfather is because I came from a family where there's no muck. Like my parents are like, we're stern. And so I love when Srila Prabhupada throws down the rascals and the fools and the less intelligent men. And when he uses words like he does in this report, should, he says should. He's not a suggestion. It's a, you should do this. And so what I'd like to talk about is one of the themes in this purport that by Krishna's arrangement also is a big theme in the very last verses that Srila Prabhupada was able to translate for us at the end of his life. And, we talk about what someone wants to be remembered for. What are their final words? I found it really interesting looking at the last verse that Srila Prabhupada translated the Bhagavatam. It's coming up. We'll get to it in just a couple of weeks. What he said, what was literally would turn out to be his final words of commentary. But let's go back. I just really want to read one more time, 10.8.42. This is Mother Yashoda. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I'm wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the cowherd men and wives are my subjects. Actually, I am also eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. And I'll read a little bit of the purport. Following in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, everyone should follow this mentality of renunciation. Whatever wealth, opulence, or whatever else we may possess belongs not to us, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's the ultimate shelter of everyone and the ultimate owner of everything. And then he goes on, of course, to quote what is known as the peace formula. How do we have peace in this world? By understanding our true original constitutional position. I think that there's no better example for me than that is like last night at the festival. So I arrived at the Bhakti Center. I forget what time it is. It was early. And everyone is running around like chickens without their head cut off. It looked like the forest of Vrindavan. The beautiful ladies are doing all of the decorations. People are running upstairs. Julie Bunji's up and down the stairs. Nityananda Chandra. Everyone is doing it not for themselves, but as an offering. And everyone, Krishna Jaya, you were there, everyone is blissed out because that's who we really are. That is our position. My Guru Dev always points out what is the difference between a community and a crowd. Both can be large groups of people running around and sometimes stampeding. But a community are people who know their original constitutional position. They're coming together to serve something greater than themselves. And there is peacefulness. So beautiful that this is called a peace formula, because this is, there can be no happiness, Krishna tells us, without peace, because this is really reminding us of who we really are. And I just want to go back and read a little bit more of the purport, because it's so clear. We should not be proud of our possessions, as expressed by Mother Yashoda herein. I am not the owner of possessions, the opulent wife of Nanda Maharaj. The estate, the possessions, the cows, the calves, and the subjects like the gopis and Kairam are all given to me. One should give up thinking my possessions, my son, my husband. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. And then I'm going to say that line again that I really, really like. Where is it? Oh, I lost it again. Where is it? For a moment. Oh, yes. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. Only because of illusion do we wrongly think I am existing or everything belongs to me. Right? But this is where, this is what we do. I often think of the way that Kastuba Das talks about this concept. He talks about a child. Hey, kid, where'd you get your lunch? Well, I made it myself. Did you? How'd you do that? Well, I went over to the refrigerator and pulled out the sandwich. The child is not acknowledging who bought the goods for that sandwich, who bought the goods for the refrigerator, who's paying for the electric bill, who bought the ham and the peanut butter and jelly, whatever on that sandwich. It is not you. I also think this is really particularly pertinent with rich children. Hey, come over, teenagers, and swim in my pool. Drive my Lamborghini. It is not yours. It is your parents. In the commentary, in the commentary, Krishna points out, your Mother Yashoda says, I've been given many things. I've been given many things. Without you, it does not work. I love how Raghunath Kapo often talks about this concept by talking about fruit. He'll say that a farmer will say, look at this peach I grew. And Raghu will, in his Raghu way, get very enthusiastic about a peach and say, fruit is amazing. It's good for you. It grows. And right in the center of it is something that will give you more of it. And a farmer says, I grew it. Really? Did you? Well, yeah, I grew it. Yeah, but did you actually make it? Well, yeah, in a laboratory, I might have done this and this because they can genetically do things. Yeah, but who made that original peach? It wasn't you, was it? And we forget that we are not the doer, particularly when it comes to our opulences, particularly when it comes to the things we do well. I always notice that in award shows, in the Academy Awards, there is not a lot of thanking of anyone besides the agent and the fans. You ever notice that? They're like, I'd like to thank my agent and my fans. But in the Grammys for the singers, a lot of the time they hold that thing and they say, I would like to thank God first. And this is completely my speculation, but what I was meditating on is an actor has to fully embody that role to be any good. So they have opened up the door to their ankara, their false ego, and really lived in it so much that they forget that they're not that character. Like we so much open up the door and forget that we are not the doer. Whereupon maybe the singer is, I am just the vessel, which is the right mood. Raghunath Maharaj often says, to be humble is to be honest. To be humble is to be honest. Because when we look at all the gifts in our lives, we realize we didn't do it. We realize we did absolutely nothing to do it a lot of time. I get praised, wrongfully so, for the amount of energy that courses through my body. I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. I take good care of myself, but there's no reason I should be doing jumping jacks at 4:30 in the morning. And so it humbles me because I realize it is not my energy. It is Krishna's energy that somehow he has given me the facility to pump out. And so it is with any of our opulences, because those are the ones that trip us up. Those are the ones that can make us think, like Mother Yashoda is repudiating, that it's my doing. It's me. But it's the opposite. And so a wonderful example of someone who says beautifully the correct mood. And I always hesitate. I always hesitate to quote verses that are often quoted because I'm like, everybody knows it. Here it comes. It's Queen Kunti's verse. Yes, but then I think the verse is really famous for a reason because it's really, really good. And Queen Kunti, she says, "My Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty cannot approach you with sincere feeling." Here she's naming all the things that people take or get so proud of, that they own so much: respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, bodily beauty. All the things. You didn't do it. It's not you. You didn't do it. And here's Mother Yashoda saying these beautiful things. It's not me. That is the mood. That is the mood. And Prabhupada uses the word should. This is where we should be going. But of course, there are many fine examples of people who walk in the opposite direction. Right? On my list of favorites on this is, of course, Lord Indra. Poor Lord Indra. I love that the British say, "Sir, you forget yourself." Lord Indra forgets himself on the regular, doesn't he? Look at that kid down there, telling them to worship a hill. Excuse me, a hill. I'm the king of heavens. Rain, thunder. Ah. And then he realizes, oops, so it's not me. Of course, what does he do? He does it again. Here's King Prito doing those sacrifices. And this is where Lord Indra really makes a fool out of himself. He puts on a disguise. He's so attached to his opulence, he puts on a disguise. And forgive me, because I am a professional clown, as some of you know. I picture him putting on one of those plastic glasses with the nose and the mustache, trying to fool someone, making a complete fool out of himself. Because why? He's so attached to his opulence. But then, of course, where I want to go is to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, who becomes so bewildered by his opulence. And he's got a lot of it, let's face it. Creator of the universe. We got one head. He has four. He's born out of a lotus. He rides on a swan, not a Tesla. You know, and swans are beautiful, but they're nasty animals. So I imagine to be able to ride, they're mean. To ride on a swan, you've got to be pretty elevated. There he is. And Lord Brahma looks and sees that there is this child that has just come from saving these other children who willingly marched into a mouth of a cave. Now, the cowherd boys weren't sure. Is it a cave or a snake? Is it a cave or a snake? Is it a demon? Is it a snake? They weren't even sure. But they had so much faith that Krishna would save them. They marched right in to the mouth. And sure enough, Krishna saved them. And to celebrate, they take food and go to the banks of the river. And there's this child that everyone is looking at with like, what is it? It says, like, he's the whirl of a lotus. And he's eating out of his left hand, for goodness sake. Right. Evan Prabhu the other day was talking about like the pickles were in there. But I always imagine, and Andrea knows because I know she's around children a lot, the sloppy eating habits. And I met it's just dripping. And he's like, and then licking the yogurt. And Lord Brahma is like, what? Excuse me, what? And so he decides to show his own opulence, his pride. I can imagine we say our head grows big for pride. Imagine 4 big heads getting even bigger. And so he decides to play a trick. And so he takes all those little boys and all those calves and he hides them. Little boy, peacock feather. I'm going to hide them and see what you do. And he goes away because he's forgotten. Lord Brahma, you've forgotten yourself. You've forgotten yourself because that little boy is an ordinary little boy. Because that little boy, air quotes, expands himself to be the perfect little cowherd boy. He's not like one little generic cowherd boy. He becomes every little cowherd boy and every little cowherd boy with the one scar here that the one did, the one curl that goes out of the way, the one calf whose maybe ear goes a little bit further down. And for a year, these Krishna's little boy and these Krishna as calves live, and there is so much love exchanged. It is like the ultimate love fest. Parents don't even know why they're loving their children so much. I love the bit where the adult cows see their baby cows who are actually Krishna's energy and run toward them and begin to lick them. And after a year of thinking he's pulled the wool over their eyes, Lord Brahma comes back and what? Wait, I hid those cows. I hid that. What? And then he gets it. And then he gets it. He understands what Mother Yashoda is saying. He understands this, what Queen Kunti is saying. He understands, I am not the doer. The opulences are not mine. And it is this Leela that was on Srila Prabhupada's lips at the last days of his life. It is this Leela. It's like, what do they say? His parting words to us, to remember we are not the doer. And so I would like to read those final verses, but to set the scene, I would like to pull up from the foreword to that very last, there it is, from that very last chapter there, and read that and then share one account, and then I'll read some of the verses. So this is the foreword. This is the final Srimad Bhagavatam volume translated by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It is smaller than the earlier volumes because it ends where the renowned author stopped translating just before his departure from this mortal world on November 14th, 1977, at the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, India. The first part of this volume was produced in the usual fashion. Srila Prabhupada would sit and read silently from the Sanskrit text, and then speak the translation and commentary into his dictaphone. Later, due to illness, it became necessary for his disciples to assist him personally. In these last days, Srila Prabhupada was gravely ill, unable to eat for weeks. His health had deteriorated, making even the slightest movement excruciatingly painful. As he lay still, a devotee would softly read the Sanskrit to him. Another disciple sitting on his bed held the microphone to him, nearly touching his mouth. And then Srila Prabhupada would speak, voice sometimes barely audible. These recordings, made in his quarters at the temple, constitute the balance of this book. In these final moments, the physician attending His Divine Grace confided that an ordinary man in such critical condition would have been crying out from the intense pain. Srila Prabhupada's disciples were awestruck as they watched their spiritual master work quietly, undisturbed. In the last part of the book, we find Srila Prabhupada's usual clarity of thought, constant scriptural references, scrupulous attention to detail, and rigorous philosophical exposition fully intact, just as they were in the preceding 29 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada's last days and this translation will stand as an inspiring reminder that even the severest material circumstances cannot impede the activities of a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. And so I wanted to actually read, I know I'm running a little late, I'm sorry. I wanted to read from the physical book because I feel like he put the book in our hand. So I'm going to read from verses 57 to that final verse. The Supreme Brahman is beyond mental speculation. He is self-manifest. This is Lord Brahma speaking, existing in his own bliss, and is beyond the material energy. He is known by the crest jewel of the Vedas, by refutation of irrelevant knowledge. Thus, in relation to the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, whose glory had been shown by the manifestation of all the four-armed forms of Vishnu, Lord Brahma, the Lord of Saraswati, was mystified. What is this, he thought. And then he was not even able to see. Lord Krishna, understanding Brahma's position, then at once removed the curtain of his yoga maya. Lord Brahma's external consciousness then revived, and he stood up, just like a dead man coming back to life. Opening his eyes with great difficulty, he saw the universe along with himself. Then looking in all directions, Lord Brahma ultimately saw Vrindavan before him, filled with trees, which were the means of livelihood for the inhabitants, and which were equally pleasing in all seasons. Vrindavan in the transcendental abode of the Lord, where there is no hunger, anger, or thirst. Though naturally inimicable, both human beings and fierce animals live there together in transcendental friendship. Then Lord Brahma saw the absolute truth, who is one without a second, who possesses full knowledge and who is unlimited, assuming the role of a child in a family of cowherd men and standing all alone, just as before, with a morsel of food in his hand, searching everywhere for the calves and his cowherd friends. After seeing this, Lord Brahma hastily got down from his swan carrier, fell down like a golden rod, and touched the lotus feet of Lord Krishna with the tips of the four crowns of his head. Offering his obeisances, he bathed the feet of Krishna with the water of his tears of joy. Rising and falling again and again at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna for a long time, Lord Brahma remembered over and over the Lord's greatness he had just seen. And now the last verse, this last verse. Then, rising very gradually and wiping his two eyes, Lord Brahma looked up at Mukunda. Lord Brahma, his head bent low, his mind concentrated and his body trembling, very humbly began with faltering words to offer praises to Lord Krishna. And this final purport. Brahma, being very joyful, began to shed tears, and he washed the lotus feet of Krishna with his tears. Repeatedly, he fell and rose as he recalled the wonderful activities of the Lord. After repeating obeisances for a long time, Brahma stood up and smeared his hands over his eyes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commented that the word lokene indicates that with his two hands, he wiped the two eyes on each of his four faces. And the last sentence, seeing the Lord before him, Brahma began to offer prayers with great humility, respect, and attention. Humility, respect, and attention. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th canto, 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Stealing of the Boys and Calves by Brahma. And so I want to leave with Prabhupada, our dear grandfather's final words there. Humility, respect, and attention. Let us take to our practices with humility, respect, and attention. Let us take to our chanting with humility, respect, and attention. And if we would want to repay him for all the gifts he has given all of us, that is what he would want. Happy birthday, grandfather. Thank you all for listening. Sorry, I'm a little late. There was a lot to say, but I'll open it to any corrections, comments, feedback. Let me look at the chat. Angelica takes amazing notes. I don't know if she does it so much. What is it? People know the purpose. We forget that we're not the doer. Yeah, that's right. Lester Masmi, I did. I did. I was the character of Indra. Oh no, for Govardhan Puja. Govardhan Puja. Yes, I was. Yes, I did. I did do that. Yeah. Yeah. Would anybody have any comments? Adipusha, please let us hear your voice. Or anybody else?
Adipusha Prabhu, unmute yourself, please.
Hare Krishna. We love you. We want to be like you when we grow up.
Oh, no, I'm gonna be you. It was so nice to see you for a minute last night. Thank you. Thank you for blessing me. Thank you. Krishna Jaya Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class, highlighting the importance of humility and renunciation. I remember Srila Prabhupada telling, oh, you have got so many disciples and everything. So Srila Prabhupada really risked his life at the age of 70. But when people give him that credit, he said, no, it is all my spiritual master sending all these people. So that is the level of his renunciation, also humility also. And the last they asked anything, he said, Kuch ichha nahi, I don't have any desire. He's completely detached, though he accomplished so much.
Mm.
You for reinforcing those points, Prabhu. Very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishna. It's so true. I always think about, I was, I teach the yoga teacher training for the Bhakti Center. And so they're, they've come for the asana. And so, but we get to, because it is the Bhakti Center, we get to speak some philosophy. And so I was explaining to them, like what this, what today was our last training. And I was telling them about Srila Prabhupada. And this one wonderful student, she goes, I was explaining what Vrindavan is. And she's like, wait a minute, he left Vrindavan for us? And she, little that she knew, she was like, who is this guy? He left Vrindavan for us? And I said, yes, you're gonna follow his instruction. I had said, yes, isn't it amazing? He did. He left it for us. And this humility. I always love that. It's like, I'm only doing this because it is the instructions of my spiritual master. Thank you, Krishna Daya. Andrea.
Hare Krishna, my dear sister.
Krishna.
So many takeaways from today's class. I had not heard what you shared at the end about how these were Srila Prabhupada's last words before he left his body. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that gift, because that's amazing. That's something that I will take with me. And I love how you started with asking a very practical question, like how can we please Srila Prabhupada? And you said, read his books, listen to his instructions, try to live our lives by them. And I think one of the things that has really inspired me is reading his Srila Prabhupada's Leela Murta, like where the books that have all his pastimes. And this is not a paid advertisement, people. I'm not getting any kind of commission. I just like to give that out. I feel like it's really made a difference because I've started with, there's a book that's like an abridged version that's called Prabhupada. That's really great. Like if you feel intimidated by like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books that are the Leela Murta. So you can start with that. And then once you kind of get a taste of his story, you want to know more. And it really helps getting your relationship to it. And then another suggestion, I know nobody's asking for it, but I'm going to give it, is just hearing about his pastimes from his disciples. So there's so many beautiful options to do that. There's YouTube interviews available that you can do. And then one of my favorite things lately is reading the book, that's written, that's all the pastimes from Srila Prabhupada's Vaishnavi disciples, which I'm blanking on the name right now. Can anybody help me?
I've heard of it. I don't know the name though.
But yeah, I have it. And
Yeah.
and if anybody knows, they can write it in the chat. But it's a book that's just his, it's like Srila
Oh, it's
Prabhupada.
called Bonds of Love. I think
Thank you,
Angelica.
Angelica.
Yeah,
See, Angelica always coming in for the
yeah,
support.
she
Bonds
is.
of Love. And it's Srila Prabhupada and his daughters. And if you read this, even just 2 or 3 of the I don't know, I guess they're just like heartfelt love letters, I feel, to Srila Prabhupada. Like you might have dreams with him. You might have like more of that interaction. It's just absolutely beautiful. So that's my little commercial for us connecting to Srila Prabhupada. And thank you so much, Jamuna, Jaya. And please, I know that you're super busy, but please come give class more. And we love your presence. Haribo.
Thank you. It really is. It's true. I didn't think I had time, but I was reading from this book, 5 Years, 11 Months and a Lifetime of Unexpected Love by Vishaka Dasi. And she has a really wonderful paragraph about those last moments that I didn't think I had time, but I'll do it now. She again was talking about those last moments leading up to those last translations. She said, although Prabhupada's voice was a whisper and his prone body covered with a white sheet was, in his words, a bag of bones. For Jamuna knelt by the side of his bed, read the Sanskrit text of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada continued to translate and comment. Other disciples huddled around the bed in a scene reminiscent of one in the Bhagavatam, where grandfather Bhishma, lying on the deathbed and surrounded by his well-wishers, relatives, and heirs to the kingdom, used his final breaths to offer invaluable knowledge. So I love that correlation of, yes, and that's a scene, grandfather Bhishma lying there on that bed of arrows and all the Pandavas gathered around. That sort of is like that moment. And I'm sure most of you have probably seen, the picture and whatnot of them holding the dictaphone to Prabhupada's face as he was talking those last words. So powerful. Yes, Angelica, please.
Hare Krishna. This is just a comment to what was just shared, but I'm just finding how it is very supportive for us to develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada when we both perceive him as an acharya through his commentaries and through his books, and also, through those more intimate pastimes, us also a spiritual teacher interacting with his disciples in a very loving and intimate way. And the image that comes to me is kind of us learning about the personality of Vishnu and Krishna, and it seems like Prabhupada interacting with his disciples is like Krishna having the sweet pastimes and being so intimate and unique in his way of being, and then also how he carries his instructions through his character in his interactions. Just wanted to share that because I also found it was incredibly beautiful for me, and even specific parts of Bhagavatam or commentaries sometimes can be really hard to swallow and understand, and to actually read his pastimes just develops this trust that like, oh yeah, he really loves us, he really cares for us. There's no way that my imagination is true, so I can ask about what does this verse mean and how can I understand it better.
Yeah, that's so true. Again, in this book, 5 Years, 11 Months, I remember there's a beautiful part where she comes in as a doubter, and her faith was in Prabhupada. And there's one, I don't have it pulled up, but when she talks about her faith came from him, from seeing his character. And like you said, Angelica, it can sometimes, just reading it can be like, what is going on? But she found her faith through his character, through his interactions. And anytime she had difficulty with anything, it was like at one point, she says, I forget, she talks about his head, how it's I remember she used the word pleasingly round, and there's talk with so much affection. And so we are so lucky too that we have these books and we have these people, our gurus and our dear uncles and people that actually were there with him, and we're so lucky that we get to hear them talk about him and hear their experiences. Yes, and there are many. Andrea's right to relish in these interactions. So, well, I'm over time.
Adipusha Prabhu.
Yes, Adi, sorry.
Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Krishna. Wonderful. flawless, fantastic. We just want to add, of course, it goes without saying in one sense, and in one sense you mentioned it. We're talking about how to be close to Prabhupada, how to please Srila Prabhupada, how to thank Srila Prabhupada. And he told us, if you want to thank me, you must give what I've given you to someone else.
Mhm.
As most Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who preaches. So with whatever capacity, with whatever intelligence, with whatever vision Krishna gives us, facility, if we're giving opportunity to serve, if we're giving prasadam, if we're giving books, if we're giving, um, our time and attention to those, and passing on what Srila Prabhupada gave us to them. It's good to be reading the books, and it's good to be hearing his pastimes, but to please him, he's specifically asking us, give what I gave to you to someone else.
Mhm. Yes, thank you, Adi, for reminding me of that. It makes me think of something Raghunath Kapo, who was so instrumental in getting me started on this road. And at my initiation, he was there. And I walked up to him and said, Raghu, I really want to, I was so nice in my initiation. All the people who were very important in my spiritual path were there. It was like this little step ladder. And I said to Raghu, I said, how can I thank you? And he said, you can never thank your teachers enough. You can never really thank them enough. All you can do is take what they gave you and give it. And that is what Prabhupada indeed would have wanted and Krishna wanted. So thank you for saying that, Adi. Thank you.
Beautiful class, Jamuna Jaya. Yeah, Prabhupada told us you all should become gurus. Right? Give it to others. And I was thinking as you were sharing that we all are children, and Srila Prabhupada is our caretaker. He took very good care of us. He left us so many books, and it's like pure concentrated care, spiritual, mental care. It's all in his books.
Yes,
thank you very much, Jamuna Jaya, for emphasizing that and highlighting that point.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And actually, maybe Krishna's gave me a solid, because it is the day after Jamashtami, so not as many people were here.
No. We're live streaming that. Everybody will see. Jamuna Jaya.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Okay, the deities are still being dressed, I guess. So
okay.
let's take, would anyone else like to contribute to class? Maybe ask a question or a comment?
Yeah.
Bhima Prabhu, Hare Krishna, come up here.
Yeah. I
Tell
haven't
us.
heard from Bhima in such a long time.
Yeah.
He's out in the field.
Get on the horse. It'll get you here closer. I mean, faster.
I don't know. He might be so far away. He doesn't hear us.
Oh, he heard us. Okay.
Oh, here it is. They're opening. Jai.
All right.
Here's Jai. Oh, there he is.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Bhima.
And horse. They're moving us close to the ladies.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jamuna Jaya. We love you dearly. Thank you very much. That was the most enthusiastic Jai Radha Madhava that I've ever heard in my life. I'm so glad that we got that recorded. I'm gonna rewatch and dance to it. Okay. Hare Krishna. Happy Krishna's birthday. Happy Prabhupada's birthday.